A lot of people hope pain will just go away on its own. Sometimes that's exactly what makes it stick around longer. Most people don't ignore pain because they're careless. They ignore it because they're busy. Work needs to get done, kids need attention, life keeps moving. So the thought becomes, maybe I just slept funny. Maybe I pulled something. Maybe if I rest this weekend, it will settle down. And sometimes that's true. But sometimes waiting too long is exactly what allows a short-term problem to become a long-term pattern. When someone first feels pain, whether it's neck pain, back pain, headaches, shoulder tension, or even sciatic type symptoms, the most common response is to wait and see what happens. And honestly, in many cases, that makes sense. A small strain, a minor flare-up, a temporary irritation, those things can often settle down on their own. The body is incredibly good at healing. It's designed to recover, adapt, and restore balance. Not every ache needs immediate attention. Not every symptom means something serious. That's important to say clearly. The challenge is that not all pain behaves that way. Some patterns improve quickly, others don't. And one of the biggest clinical mistakes people make is assuming all pain follows the same timeline. It doesn't. Some symptoms are simple and temporary. Others are signals of a deeper pattern that's been building for much longer. And over 2 decades of practice, one thing becomes very clear to me. Timing matters more than most people realize. When the body starts producing a pain signal, it's usually because something has changed in how it's functioning, how it's moving, how it's adapting, how much stress it's carrying, how much load it is trying to manage. Pain is often the moment the body says, this pattern no longer working well. No, still flexible. It can adjust, compensate, recover, reset. That's the ideal window. Because at that stage, the body often responds quickly when the right change is made. But when a pattern continues for weeks without being addressed, something starts to change. The body adapts around it. An adaptation is not always the same as healing. Muscles begin to stay tighter as the new normal. Movement becomes more restricted. Certain joints stop moving efficiently. Other areas start overworking to compensate. One side starts carrying more load than the other. Posture shifts. Breathing patterns change. Sleep quality drops. And the nervous system becomes more familiar with that stressed pattern. This is where things start to shift, because now pain is no longer only about the original irritation. It starts becoming part of a learned pattern in the system. The body begins organizing itself around the problem. Doesn't mean it's permanent. It simply means that it's no longer purely acute. It's become a repeating adaptation. And the longer that pattern stays in place, the more the body normalizes it. That's why people start saying things like, comes and goes. It's been there for months. It always comes back. It moves around. It's just something I deal with now. That language is a clue. Because what's usually happening there is it's not that the body's failing, it's adapting, but not fully resolving the real driver underneath it. That's an important distinction. The body's trying to protect you. It tightens, it guards, it limits movement, it creates compensation. Those are protective responses. But if the reason for that protection never changes, the pattern stays. And sometimes it gets stronger. Waiting it out can allow that adaptation to deepen, especially when the same daily stressors are still present. Things like poor posture, long desk hours, repetitive strain, driving too much, stress overload, poor sleep, old injuries, lack of movement, training imbalance, constant tension, emotional stress, the body never fully resets from. If those inputs remain the same, time alone doesn't solve the issue. Not often. Because the body doesn't reset simply because time passes, it resets when conditions change. And that's a key distinction. Time helps healing, but only when the system actually has the opportunity to heal. If the same pattern keeps repeating, the body keeps adapting to that pattern. That's why some people rest for weeks, feel slightly better, return to normal life, and the pain comes right back. Nothing actually changed. Only the irritation temporarily settled. Now, it It doesn't mean every ache needs immediate intervention, right? That would be unnecessary and honestly, not fully helpful. The goal isn't fear, it's awareness. We're looking for patterns. If something is persistent, recurring, changing in frequency, getting more intense, showing up more easily, taking longer to recover from, or starting to affect sleep, focus, or daily function, it's usually worth paying attention to. Now, because early assessment can make a huge difference. Early on, patterns are usually much more responsive. Movements easier to restore. Compensation not fully set in. Nervous system is not fully adapted around the tissue and the issue yet. Recovery tends to happen faster and often less intervention is needed overall. That's why addressing something earlier can actually be the simpler path. On the other hand, when people wait too long, the process often becomes less about fixing a small irritation and more about unwinding a deeply established pattern. It takes longer, not because the body's broken, but because the system has spent months or years learning that pattern. Now it has to learn something different. That process is still possible. It just takes more patience. So the goal is not to become anxious about every symptom. The goal is to recognize when something is no longer behaving like a normal short-term issue. The body's incredibly good at healing, and it's also incredibly good at adapting. And whatever state it stays in long enough, it starts treating it as normal. And that's why waiting can often, and not always, make pain worse. Not because time is bad, but because patterns get stronger when they're repeated. And that's usually the moment when waiting it out stops being helpful. If you've been dealing with something that keeps coming back or hasn't fully settled, it may be worth looking at what pattern is actually being maintained. If it makes sense, we can take a closer look and figure out what's really contributing. Comment HEAL below, and we'll get in touch with you ASAP to book a complimentary discovery call.